Well, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, whenever it is that you're watching. Maybe you're watching late at night. Whenever it is that you're watching, thank you so much for tuning in. This is another bike ride and another life lesson. Glad that you've joined me today. What a gorgeous day it is. Sun shining, literally not a cloud in the sky. So I thought I'd take a ride and share a life lesson with you. I got to thinking about whenever I'm riding a bike, or for that matter in a vehicle of any kind, but particularly when I'm riding a bike, I have to be focused on what's ahead of me, right? I have to be focused on what's ahead of me. If I don't, then even though I'm talking to you, I'm still focusing on what's in front of me, because if I don't, I'm going to have some kind of an accident and things are not going to turn out well. So I got to thinking about the thing of focusing on what's in front of me, focusing on and it reminded me of a story out of Matthew chapter 14, where Jesus had sent the disciples across the sea, and a storm had arisen. They were out in the middle of the sea and the storm arose. Jesus was not with them in this particular account, and it was like at midnight, and Jesus came walking. I mean, the guys were concerned about getting swamped and drowning and all that kind of stuff. And Jesus came walking to them on the water. The account in Matthew 14 says that Peter saw that it was Jesus, and he said, "Hey, Jesus, let me come walking to you on the water." So the first miracle there is Jesus walking on the water. The second miracle is Peter walking on the water to go to Jesus. Now, the incident tells us that as long as Peter kept his eyes on Jesus, he was doing just fine. He was walking on the water, doing just fine. But then midway through, he took his eyes off Jesus and he began to sink. And when he began to sink, he said, "Lord," he screamed out, "Lord, help me." And Jesus reached down very kindly, compassionately, caringly, reached down, took his hand, pulled him up, and then he said, "Hey, Peter, why did you doubt? You have little faith." It didn't say you didn't have any faith. He said, "Oh, you have little faith, why did you doubt?" Now, I got to thinking about that and the principles behind that, and what God is trying to teach you and I through that event actually happened. The miracles actually did happen. But beyond that, what is God trying to teach you and I about taking our eyes? What happens when we take our eyes off Jesus? Well, think about this for a second. First of all, the storms of life don't have to sink you. It doesn't have to sink you. The only reason that Peter started to sink was because he took his eyes off of Jesus. Now, where Jesus is, there wasn't a storm. There was peace around where Jesus was. But when Peter took his eyes off of Jesus, he started looking around about him, and oh my gosh, the waves, he could hear the thunder, see the lightning, he could see all that stuff going on, and he began to sink. Now, think about this for a second. Sometimes you and I have waves of anxiety that overcome us. We have waves of doubt that overcome us. We have waves of fear that overcome us. The waves of bills start piling up. Broken relationships start piling up. All of those kinds of things. I'm going to turn around here and go back because I don't like gravel roads. All of those things start piling up. Sometimes there's a teachable moment right there. Sometimes we come to a dead-end road. We've got to sometimes turn around and go back the way we came. Isn't that interesting? So anyway, we start looking at our anxiety starts building up, bills start piling up, broken relationships, all of those kinds of things start happening, and we start looking around at those things and take our eyes off of Jesus. And then we begin to sing. And it's only when we look to Him that He pulls us back up out of that. Understand what I'm saying there? He pulls us back up out of that. Okay? And sometimes what happens is we let, storms come in waves, right? I mean, they in a way, they are predictable, right? In the springtime, and sometimes in the summer, but mainly in the springtime, we have storms, severe storms, we have pop-up storms, different kinds of things. And then in the wintertime, we might have a dusting of snow, and then we might have a major snowstorm, ice storm, whatever, sleet, all that kind of stuff. Different kinds of storms. And they can overcome us if we take our eye off of what's going on. If we focus so much on what's around us, then we'll begin to sink. So the storms of life do not have to sink you. Number two is when you and I focus on our problems, the problems tend to grow larger. So when Peter took his eyes off Jesus, those waves all of a sudden got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and he became afraid. He began to doubt whether he was actually going to make it to Jesus. Is this really going to happen? Is it, what do I do now? So when you focus on your problems, they grow larger. Watch this. So when we focus on our problems, we wake up in the morning and we start focusing on our problems. That's all we focus on. Go throughout the day, focus on our problems. Come home at night, focus on our problems. Go to sleep at night, can't sleep at night because we're focused on our problems. Listen, it's not that those problems are going to just magically go away, but we gain perspective. Okay, who is bigger, God or your problem? Who's bigger? And every day you and I answer that question whenever waves or storms start to overcome us. That's the question. Well, which is bigger, this problem or God? If God is bigger, then okay, there we go. I can trust Him. So the storms of life don't have to sink you. And then second, the more you focus on the problem itself, on the storm, the bigger it gets. And then third, don't let fear distract you from your faith. And that's what happened with Peter. He allowed his fear to distract him. Oh my gosh, I'm not going to make it. I'm going to sink. There's no way around it. I'm going to sink. It's going to happen just as sure as I'm standing here on this water. What, me on the water? You got to be kidding. Me doing this? You got to be kidding. No. There's no way. And so he begins to sink. So don't let fear distract you from your faith. If you and I start looking at our problems and magnifying those problems and focusing on those problems, then fear it's just gonna outweigh our faith. Now again, that doesn't mean that it's gonna magically go away. Doesn't mean that at all. In fact, it may intensify. But the lesson here is to keep our eyes looking forward. It's easy for me to get distracted. Now, I know I'm talking to you, but I'm always aware of what's in front of me. Okay? And it's easy to get distracted. I know whenever, Val and I take a trip, a bike trip to, out west or, wherever we've been, that we haven't been before. She's looking around, she's sitting behind me, and she's looking around and taking pictures and asking me if I saw this, and I said, no, I'm focused on what's in front of me. I can scan, okay, I was taught to do that in the motorcycle safety course. I can scan a little bit, in my field of vision, But if I start looking way to the side, to the right, or to the left, and get distracted by something, it's not going to end good. Okay. So I just wanted to pass that on to you today. That some of you may be at that point where you're more focused on the problem, on the storm, or whatever it might be. Maybe it's financial, maybe it's relational, whatever it might be. You're more focused on that, and you can't figure out why your days and weeks and months are so miserable. Maybe you should reconsider. Sit down and take stock of the fact: have I taken my eyes off of Jesus and looking and focusing? Has my problem, has my storm become more powerful to me than God has? Something to think about. Okay? Well, listen, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for riding along with me. Glad to have you along. Again, just such a beautiful day outside. Wanted to get out and just share some things with you, share some insight. Hopefully this will help. Whatever you're facing, if you're not facing a storm now, hang on. You soon will. Okay? God bless you. Thanks for riding along. We'll see you again next week. Have a great week. Have a great day.